I grew up in an extremely strictly Catholic household where sex was filled with shame and guilt and not fun and not explorative and not something to be celebrated, not seen as a part of who we are as humans, which is really ultimately what sex is, right? And I grew up believing that like you should only have sex with one person, and that's the person you marry, and that should be the only person because it's that sacred. And I did not do that. In college, I did. I had a lot of sex, but you know what? It was this god awful circle in cycle where it was like I was having sex for validation because I wanted to be wanted. I wanted to be wanted. That's really, I want you to want me, right? Like that's all it was. But then we got done and I didn't catch his first name when I met him 2 hours ago. And then I was filled with shame and guilt and all of these things. And I was probably sobering up. And, eventually it was like this super toxic, ugly cycle. And I really struggled with it. And then I met my ex husband. And I'll be totally honest, it was boring, but that's fine. Right. And then I had this entire, like, we got divorced and come my 40th birthday, I had this like entire like sexual revelation. And what I realized is I started to dive in and I dove in like the research geek that I am because I am 100% ADHD. And if you know about ADHDers, they go on these rabbit hole trails of hyper focus where they just go and they 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 learn every single thing that they possibly can learn. And for me, that involves talking to as many people as I can talk to, like hands on, like tell me your experience, tell me more. And I interviewed hundreds of people, just getting details and learning more. And in the state of where the country is and in the state of events that have happened in my past, you know, as I had it out with my family over decisions I was making that all revolved around who I was sleeping with, which to me is like, I don't understand. At one point, I remember saying, I have to talk about this. I have to let people know that they're not alone. And here's why. Before I started this journey, there were fantasies, there were thoughts, there were ideas that I had that I desperately wanted to explore. But I wouldn't. I wouldn't even mutter the words ever. Like, I wouldn't talk about it. I would nothing. Okay. And then once I started peeling back these layers, once I started talking to more people, once I started getting more comfortable and gaining this understanding that the things I was thinking about were things that most people were actively doing, and that I wasn't a bad person for wanting to explore these things, that it was the filters that I grew up with, I needed to unlearn, right? I remember having this revelation that if I don't walk down this path, I can never actually say I'm authentically myself, that I am me, because there's a piece of me I'm ignoring and I'm holding back and I'm masking and I'm pretending doesn't exist. And I'm really just pushing it down, 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 down. I struggled with that idea. And now people say, like, you can go through this and you can do this with discretion. Absolutely. I would say most people don't need to go out and like be as vocal about their sex life as I have. But here's the reason I am. Because one of my greatest purposes and passions and causes is suicide prevention. And I have a whole story that I will tell you on another day that has to do with my ex-husband. And if you go back to the old podcast. You can find it. It's there. I've written blogs about it. They're floating out in the internet somewhere. I don't know where. But I have this tattoo on my wrist, right? And it's a semicolon, and that signifies when the story could have ended, but it didn't. And to make a really, really long, horrific story short, in 2017, my ex-husband attempted suicide on my daughter's 3rd birthday. And my son was 1. And the gym that I had just opened was 3 weeks old. And nobody ever had a clue that we were at that point, that he was at that point. Like, nobody knew the depths of his pain and his struggle, right? And I remember driving home from the hospital that day thinking, when the time is right, I have to talk about this. And this has now turned into watching human rights go backwards instead of forwards. This has turned into the fact that we watch suicide rates rise because we're fighting over what bathroom a child can use. We're fighting over pronouns, right? Like I sit here and I can't identify with any of that. Not even a little bit. I have no idea what anybody in the LGBTQ community really feels, what their struggles are, what they've gone through. I have no idea. I have friends whose children are, I watch the pain that my friends are in, and they're in pain because of the pain for their children and the worry that never leaves them, right? And they're worrying about suicide because kids at school are mean and teachers are mean and family members are mean. There was a point where there was, I don't remember all the details, but there was a news, and this was a couple of years ago now, probably 5-6 years ago, maybe, oh my God, probably more, where they were talking about college kids and suicide rates over just because of the sheer pressure that was being put on them to do all. And this was going on also with the high school kids trying to get into these colleges, and how intensely competitive things have become, and people are taking their own lives because they don't want to disappoint, or because they can't live with the fact that they feel inadequate, that they feel like they are disappointing somebody, that they feel like they're lying to themselves constantly in order to make other people feel more comfortable. And I can't relate to any of that. I can't even pretend I can relate to it. I can't. But what I can relate to is knowing that nobody ever in any way should get that phone call. What I can relate to is an understanding that the pain and the darkness and the depth of where they are at is so deep, they genuinely don't see an out. And I have to believe that there are a lot of people who are feeling that and can relate to a lot of the things that I will come to talk about in the spicy bedroom in with the kink and right, like, so is I can't relate to the trans community. I can't relate to to so many things. I have been on the side where I have woken up and found my ex-husband on the floor with a bottle of pills gone and calling an ambulance and knowing he was so pissed at me because I called an ambulance. I can relate to the fear that, oh, fuck, my kids were this close to growing up without a father, right? And there is nothing, nothing that is worth it. Nothing that is worth our lives. So here's the deal. Let's be totally honest. And this, I'm going to sound like a complete asshole when I say this. Okay, but stay with me. I'm a 40-something white girl from middle class suburbia who grew up in a fairy tale with two parents who still love each other with all of their support, with overall a really good life. On top of that, I'm pretty, I'm successful. There are challenges out there that others face that I have never, in a million years, I've never faced them. I will never face them. I can't pretend to understand what they feel like. I've been judged for a lot of shit in my life, but it's like little shit. Like, it's like, come on, Tab, get your shit together, right? Overall, I can't relate to being outcast, or I never felt like I fit in, but I always had friends. I was never bullied, right? But when I entered into the kink community, when I entered into an open relationship, I was going against every single thing that my conservative little hometown believed in, that my family stood for, that is so taboo, and people will judge you for it. And because of that judgment, I almost didn't do it. I hadn't done it. My entire adult life, I stayed away because of that judgment, because I wanted to be the good girl, right? And all I was doing was really masking. That's all I was doing, because I did want to do it. And I didn't understand why doing it would make me not a good girl, right? It's the closest I can come to the acknowledgement of what it feels like to have something be a part of you, but you will be so judged for it. And yet you're not doing anything wrong, right? Because let's face it, I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not doing anything wrong at all. But by some people's moral standards, oh, I am a very, 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 very bad person. The reason I need to put it out there, the reason I feel so strongly and so passionately about talking about kink and my open relationship and and truly how it improved my relationship and the fact that there's other options and choices out there. The reason that means the world to me and this passion project is literally at the center of my soul is because, let's face it, people will take my voice more seriously than many other voices preaching the same exact message. They shouldn't, but they will. Because my goal has always been to change things. Because my goal is to tell you that if this is what you're thinking, if this is what you're feeling, if you are relating to any of this, and it has you feeling like, but if I go down that road, I'm going to lose these people, I am here to tell you, fucking lose them. I lost them. I lost everybody. Just about. I lost everybody over who I choose to sleep with. I don't understand it. Like, I genuinely do not understand it. But I'm here to tell you, keep going. This is the only thing I know how to do to begin building that bridge. Because my message and here's the deal, and my passion and my project and here's, you want to know everything behind it besides just this? This journey has changed my life. It has leveled me up. It has changed who I fucking am for the better. I have let go of every single person who fucking judged me. I have figured out who the fuck I am based on me, not based on anybody else. I have healed anxious attachment. I have stared in the face of jealousy to figure out why I'm having these feelings. I have needed to level up my boundaries, my standards, and my expectations by tenfold. I have brought myself to a level of where I am proud of who I am. Proud in ways that before this journey, I couldn't be because I wasn't a whole person yet. So on top of the fact that, yes, I'm standing in unison with other communities and other subsets of people and showing my support, saying, nobody has a right to judge anybody for anything, right? At all. Like, the only time I want to hear judgment is when someone is doing something that is directly impacting your safety. If it's not directly impacting you or your family's safety and well-being, shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. All of you Christian high horses who want to preach Bible rights about who's marrying who, shut the fuck up. Everybody who's out there, swinging with their signs and celebrating, fucking overturning Roe vs. Wade and pro-life and all of this, shut the fuck up. Because if you have never been in that situation, I have never been in that situation. I thank God every single day. I've never had to stand and make that decision. And if I did have to, there's no way in hell that what my choices would look like would mirror the same as somebody who grew up in the inner city with dark skin and less resources. You can't compare choices. Therefore, you can't compare situations. You can't compare who's what is it? Like, I don't want to say the choices, like the curriculum of what you're basing your choices on. What's that called? Like, somebody type that down there. Like, what is it called? The thing, the rubrics? Do you know what I'm saying though? We can't judge that because we're not walking in the same shoes. We're making our choices based on different sets of situations, different sets of interpretations, different sets of information, different sets of resources. My personal beliefs don't really fucking matter because this is far past religion, right? Like, we're talking about women needing judges to sign off for life-saving procedures. Fuck this. I've always been the squeaky wheel. I have always spoke up, stood up, yelled, and screamed for everybody who can't, and I will continue to do that. I will continue to cheer on everybody who fucking needs it. And I will continue to encourage every single fucking person to walk down their own road of authenticity, of radical self-acceptance. Figure out who the fuck you are. What are you doing for the sake of other people? And what are you doing for you? That's always been my goal and my mission. And when I brought the sex stuff in, man, my whole fucking world blew up because let me tell you, my family dropped me like a fucking hot potato. And I mean a hot potato. I burned their little fingers. And it did not go over well. But it was the best fucking thing I've ever done for me. It set me free. It healed me. It allowed me to create my life. And here's the thing. At the end of the day, whatever group you belong to, whatever mental illness or diagnosis that you are suffering from, whatever the reason, it doesn't matter if it has anything to do with gender and sexuality. It doesn't matter if it's PPMD. It doesn't matter. We get here, we get to suicide because we don't feel like we can be us. And we're tired of masking for other people. That's and I want to be perfectly clear, that's a very oversimplified explanation. Okay? Like, I'm oversimplifying this. There is a lot that goes into this. But at the end of the day, it's happening because someone's not feeling seen, validated, heard, accepted, loved, worthy. Because they've been living their entire life by somebody else's fucking rules because they've been told their rules don't make them a good person. And they just desperately want to be a good person.